I'm back and I am live. Hit me up, man. The sub button. Hit that sub button as you come in. Give me the 1600. Um, make sure this is working. Hit that like button as you come in. And if you're in the archives, man, leave your comments below. Who do you like in this fight? Chocolatito versus Juan Estrada. Gallo. This is a good fight, man. This is a really good fight. There are a lot of intriguing factors about this fight, and that's on top of the stylistic matchup that's going to make this a good fight. A lot of interesting things to break down. We'll be about 15 minutes breaking down this fight. Try to hit this from every angle, but just on paper, man, this is one of those fights that it's being made, even though it's made 9 years later, it's being made at the right time. Right? I mean, Estrada has earned this rematch, and both of these guys have the same career arc. You know, when we're going into Pacquiao Marquez 3, the reason so many people were favoring Pacquiao is because of the weight factor, because Pacquiao looked so good at 147, but they felt that the career arc was different, that Pacquiao was going up, maybe Marquez was maintaining, plateauing in his career, and that Pacquiao was a different beast at that point. Turned out not to be so. Turned out their career arc was very much the same at that point. And we have the same thing here. You know, two guys who just fought Sor Rungvisai, had two tough fights, respectively, both of them, with Rungvisai. Estrada, a guy who defeated Rungvisai in the rematch. And this is the third fighter he's facing in a rematch that he lost to, and he avenged the first two. So he's coming, this is sort of his Kill Bill list, right? Like, you remember Kill Bill when she's crossing off everybody who's wronged her in her life until she gets to the end of the list, and then she can just retire. That's Estrada here. Estrada's trying to cross everybody off the list, and Chocolatito is the last guy on that list. This is his third loss he's trying to avenge, and it's almost like, as he stated, that if I win this fight, it's almost like I didn't lose a fight in my career because I've avenged all my losses. So that adds intrigue to this. But if you watch that first fight between the two, I went back recently and watched it. Hell of a fight. And the scorecards were not indicative of how close that fight was. I think the scorecards had it 118, 110, 116, 112 for Gonzalez over Estrada. It was a closer fight than that. Estrada had his moments early in the fight. Not his moments. He was winning the early rounds in that fight. And then as the fight went on, Gonzalez started to get the blood flowing, get the sweat going, and started to take over that fight in the middle rounds towards the late rounds. But a funny thing happened, Estrada in that 12th round. If you go back and watch Gonzalez versus Estrada, the first fight, round 12, do me a favor and go watch that. Hell of a round. Hell of a round. And it was a surprising round because Chocolatito was coming on in that fight. Estrada used a lot of energy to stay in that fight, particularly in the early rounds. He used a lot of aerobic energy, was using a lot of lateral movement, was fighting, going backwards a lot off his back foot as Chocolatito was pressuring him, as he does well. And then Estrada out of nowhere, sort of like Teofimo Lopez and Lomachenko, when Lomachenko was having his way from in rounds 8 through 11, and then out of nowhere, he makes his last stand, and Estrada had a hell of a round 12, but still lost the fight. What I'm saying is it showed the heart that Estrada has, that he's not going anywhere. And the career arc is much like each other. So even though this is 9 years later, yes, they're diminished from what they were 9 years ago. They've been in a lot of wars. They're 9 years older. The reflexes aren't the same. However, the styles are the same. They fight the same. They're still very good fighters. Maybe not as great as they were in 2012, but very good fighters, probably still great fighters. But what happens is when guys lose their reflexes, we've seen it with older fighters. They either clinch more or get cagier and more boring, or if they're made of that warrior cloth like these two guys are, it actually makes them more entertaining because they're not going to clinch, but their reflexes aren't the same, so they're going to get hit more. And when they get hit more, it's going to light a fire under them, and they're going to return more fire. on their opponent. And that's what's going to happen here, man. This has fight of the year written all over it. We thought that we were going to get fight of the year from Oscar Valdez and Burchelt. Instead, what we got was a performance of the year type of fight from Oscar Valdez. We didn't get our fight of the year. We could possibly get it here because there's not much separation between these two guys. Estrada wants that revenge. Chocolatito's not going to be ready to hand it over to him. And these two guys are still very much fighting for legacy. These two guys are still very much have their losses to Sorung Vise fresh in their mind. They both want another shot at Sorung Vise. Well, Chocolatito more so than Estrada because Estrada already avenged that. But a lot on the line here, legacy-wise. And if you lose this fight, it's one of those fights that if you lose it and lose it badly, it's possibly lights out for you, for your career. But if you win it, it adds even more so for your legacy. And you could possibly go forward for even more bigger fights. So a lot on the line here. Stylistically, how this fight played out in the first fight and how it will play out in the second fight as well, I believe, because I don't see much difference from these guys in 2021 from what they were in 2012 style-wise. Estrada has to be first. Like he was when Estrada was successful in the first fight, he was first. He was throwing punches first. He was throwing punches first and keeping Gonzalez at bay. That's the best way he kept him at bay. Throw punches. His offense was his best defense in that fight. And he has to rack up early rounds. Like I felt he did in that first fight. I gave him the first 3 rounds in that first fight. I felt it was a close fight, much closer than the scorecards. So he has to rack up some early rounds because what happens is Gonzalez starts to get it going. Chocolatito starts to get it going, man. The blood starts flowing, and then he turns into an animal coming forward. And I don't think Estrada can handle that as well as he does when Chocolatito is cold early in the fight. And he can get some early rounds, pad a lead, and then hope to have his moments late in the fight in order to win this thing close on the scorecards. Because I doubt that these two guys can stop each other. It may happen because, like I said, with the reflexes being diminished 9 years later, both of these guys are going to take more shots in the ring. They're going to take more shots from each other. And possibly one of their chins may fail them in this fight. But I still lean towards scorecards. I'll be looking at the betting odds. I'll drop another video tomorrow night on betting odds and how I feel you should bet this fight as far as odds and whatnot, not where the value is. But as far as Chocolatito, what you want to do is stop Estrada from being first. You be first. Get it going earlier in this fight and try to make it difficult on this guy early in the fight. I'm looking forward to seeing how this goes early on in the fight, those first 2 or 3 rounds. Is it a replay of how it was in the first fight where Estrada had some success early in the fight, or will Chocolatito try to come out and stump that as they watch the footage, the tape of that first fight and try to make adjustments? But it's very much, man, Estrada uses a lot of energy to have success against Chocolatito. That's what he did in the first fight. He used a ton of energy early in that fight to keep Chocolatito off of him, score points, and try to rack up some rounds. And you started to see him diminish a little bit as the fight went on. And as Chocolatito started to get stronger and stronger as the fight went on. Shout out to Outlaw. And that's what happened. Hit that like button as you come in. Please, please, please. But that's what happened as this fight played out is Estrada had his moments early. Estrada had his success early, but he used so much energy in those early rounds that Chocolatito started to come forward, full head of steam and do what he does. Combination punching, going to the body, backing you up into the ropes and throwing his combinations. And Estrada had to use so much energy throwing off of his back foot and then using his lateral movement, just used a lot of aerobic energy to keep Chocolatito off of him. And that was the difference in this fight is Chocolatito started to take advantage of that, and he fought at the same pace throughout the fight. actually fought at a better pace as the fight went on until that 12th round when Estrada made his last stand and fought a hell of a round in round 12. I expect the same thing here. I expect Estrada to come out strong, wanting to avenge that loss, wanting to avenge. This is going to be the last loss that he has to avenge in his career. Kind of going to come out with a full head of steam. But can he keep that energy up, especially being 9 years older? And you can flip that. You can say, can Chocolatito fight as much as a pressure fighter at this age that he did 9 years ago? So it goes both ways. But I just feel more confident in Chocolatito coming into this fight as Estrada. I sort of lean towards Estrada in some ways, being that a lot on the line for him. He wants to avenge his loss. He did avenge the loss to Sora and Vise. He seems to be a guy who does well again in rematches. He makes the proper adjustments. So there are things that I lean towards Estrada. And my brain tells me, you know what? I think Estrada might win this fight. And this is also a good point by Outlaw. Estrada was only 21 years old, very inexperienced, and fought a Chocolatito weight. Yeah, that's also a good point. So, but I tend to think, like I said earlier in the video, is both these guys have a similar career track. So I don't expect much different in this fight than I saw in the first fight, except I expect it to be more entertaining because their reflexes aren't what they were 9 years ago. And it's going to make for a more entertaining fight. More exchanges, more standing in that phone booth in the middle of the ring, more exchanges on the ropes, and possibly a knockout here because you never know, man. One of these guys' chins may get tested in this fight. I just lean more towards a decision by Chocolatito. I think he's going to get the benefit of the doubt in these close rounds, and there's going to be a lot of them because the guy who lands with more power, and you saw that early in the fight, Chocolatito had more power. Naturally, bigger guy, had more power, sits down on his punches a little more. Estrada throws punches going laterally and backwards a lot, especially against Chocolatito. So I think Chocolatito is going to get more of the benefit of the doubt in these close rounds, being that he's going to land with more pop. And these judges sitting at ringside will hear his punches a little more than they'll hear Estrada's. So close fight on the scorecards, a lot of action. This could be a fight of the year type of fight. And I like Chocolatito. How can I pick again? I've never picked against Chocolatito in my career on YouTube. Never picked against him. So I'm not going to start here. I like Chocolatito. He was my fighter of the decade in 2010 to 2019. I can't go against him now. Got to ride that. So, he's putting Outlaw says he's putting money on an Estrada and on a draw. It's a good bet. That's a good bet. I'm going to look. I like looking at the odds once the prop bets come out, the rounds come out, all that good stuff. So my prop bet video is coming out tomorrow night or Friday night. So I'll tell you how I'm going to bet this fight. And I haven't even seen that if Estrada's minus 140, Chocolatito just straight up might be the play for me. If Estrada's minus 140, that means Chocolatito might be plus 120, plus 130, something like that. I got to look at the betting odds. I'll pull my app up and later on and see how I'm going to play this thing. But I'm based off of what you're telling me, if Estrada is minus 140, I'm betting Chocolatito in this fight. Just me. I can totally see Estrada winning this fight. Like I said, there are a lot of things that you can lean towards an Estrada win. He has a lot of things going for him in this fight. He definitely looked better against Sora and Vise than Chocolatito did. But styles make fights. And I just think Chocolatito is going to win those close rounds and win this thing on the scorecard. So that's my official prediction. The betting odds video will come out tomorrow or Friday. So be on the lookout for that. We'll win some money together. And y'all hit me up in the comment section below as you watch this on the archives. A lot of people are going to watch this on the archives since I'm doing this during the day. So y'all hit me up, man. Hit that sub button. Hit that like button. God bless. Chocolatito.